Good evening. This is the Natural Resource Inventory and Mapping Committee meeting for, what is the date? January 30th, 2024. With us tonight is Jeff Parsons from Arrowwood, who is going to help us figure out which landowners we still need to contact in order for the success of this project. So we'll just start right in. I don't see any other public here for public comments. So tell us where you're at and what we can do, Jeff.
All right. You guys can hear me, right?
Yes.
I had a discussion with Michael Lou Smith and Aaron Worthley over the last couple of discussions about our methodology in choosing parcels. And if you're interested in that, I'll just briefly tell you what it is. If you remember from the natural resource inventory, each contiguous forested area was mapped as a separate forest block.
Yeah.
And there are 4 or 5 of them that are elongated north to south because of the sort of orientation and geography of your major roads, right? Route 15 and other roads that run north to south. So many of these forest blocks were, narrower on the east to west axis and longer on the north to south axis. So when looking at which parcels we wanted to visit, I wanted to make sure that I hit at least 4, sometimes 5 of the larger forest blocks. I wanted to try to visit a parcel in the north and in the south of each one of those blocks, and if possible, in the middle. And then I looked at a couple of the other smaller forest blocks near the villages. I figured they were important to visit as well. If nothing else, it may be the places where people within your community have the greatest amount of personal interaction with wildlife, seeing deer on the edges of the roads, and we really want to look at those areas because I personally, at least, feel that they're very important in terms of sowing the necessary commitment among the villagers to protect these resources. I think the more people interact with wildlife, the more likely they are to protect it. Within those forest blocks, we looked at visiting the greatest number of different natural community types and the edges where those different community types meet, because wildlife abundance is generally greatest along those edges, and the more natural communities you cover, the greater the diversity of wildlife that you may encounter or the signs of that wildlife. So you're combining abundance when you're looking at edge communities, and you're looking at a diversity of wildlife when you're looking at a diversity of natural communities. We wanted to make sure that we incorporated the best chance to pick up species that are not the ones that we commonly see on the side of the road, the ones that are perhaps more restricted to wilder areas, so predators such as bobcat and fisher, and of course we're not really looking for black bear at this season. They're hopefully all tucked into their dens for the winter. And specifically, while we would have liked to have searched for more obscure or less well-known natural resources, such as mast stands, oak stands, or beech stands that are very important for wildlife, they're also a bit of a needle in the haystack. There's not a lot of outward indication about where they're found. So while I will identify them while doing my field work this winter and try to map them, I don't think it was worth our while to try to locate them in the woods themselves. There's just not enough of environmental cues sort of to lend some direction to where we would go. You can imagine how big of an issue that is with the Mount Mansfield State Forest being all sugar maple, American beech, and yellow birch, northern hardwood forest, and just hoping to, wander upon a Bears Guard beach stand is kind of I don't think a very efficient use of your money and my time. So, but there are a couple of resources that I do want to focus in on. The first being ledge communities. And while we're looking for a certain type of ledge, it's very hard to determine based on topographic maps and other resources that we have, including, believe it or not, the state has mapped every rock outcrop in the state. And we have that database, of course. But those databases don't tell you whether or not it's a continuous rock face or a broken ledge. And in terms of winter use, at least, they're very different in terms of what type of wildlife may use them. Almost all species of wildlife will use a broken ledge to avoid inclement weather, rain in the winter, very cold days. They'll go into broken ledge, and you think of this as caves maybe, but we're really not talking about caves. Caves are pretty rare in Vermont. They're found where there's limestone. We're talking about ledge that's broken, that, for instance, a bobcat, a female bobcat that's bearing young kittens can back into, put her kittens behind her and defend against coyotes and some of our newer predators on the landscape like coyotes. So I've tried to identify areas that have ledge in them. And then I've also focused in a little bit on deer yards. Conifer trees or evergreen trees, needle-leaf trees that provide important winter habitat for white-tailed deer in a place like Underhill that receives a lot of snow. Deer are very short-legged and have low tummies, so they don't do real well in deep snow. So they seek out, in particular, hemlocks to spend the winter in, and also white cedar, northern white cedar plant communities. And we have mapped those communities, so anytime there was a mapped deer yard or a deer yard that we mapped, and it was also near a diversity of other natural communities and perhaps ledge, and within a parcel that we wanted to visit, we chose that parcel as well. So I've looked at your list that you had sent out a week or so ago, and I've added to that list, and I've sent it to Sandy.
Yeah.
And do you have a copy of that list?
Did you send it today?
Yes.
Okay. I can't check right now because I don't have my email.
If you
Okay.
could send it to me.
Can you send it to Penny? Do you have her
Let's see
address?
if I do.
I think you would send it to her before. She has
Yeah.
her computer open, so she can.
Penny Miller, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, she brought her computer.
Oh, yeah,
Is that a ThinkPad?
it is.
Is
Yeah,
it a Lenovo?
yeah, I like Lenovo.
I do too. We have something in common. Another thing in common.
Yeah. Sandy, you added quite a bit to the bottom of this list.
People
and-
that I thought of that had large parcels and maybe were next to one that
and
you
talked
wanted.
to them, right?
Yeah.
You got permission too.
I was trying to
Yeah,
make
you got
up for all the
permission for those parcels.
Yeah. I was trying to make up for the ones that didn't want to do it.
Yeah, there's so.
Yeah.
squirrely
There's
about it.
There's a couple in that list of people who didn't want to do it that were really important. I put them on 3 different lists at 3 different times, I think. But it is what it is. You only get permission from people who want to do it. So,
Sandy, I have this. This was the one I took Ryan's map and overlaid on the zoning and parcels. But of course, I don't know who necessarily has these parcels, but I might be able to identify some. I wondered if we could easily identify the ones that he has permission or wants.
Actually,
right here.
My computer right here.
There.
I did that because it would be good to see which parcels or where they are. That kind of thing.
all right, should be on the way to Penny.
Oh, and Sandy's right here, so you could just send it to Sandy too. I could forward it to you. Hold on.
I didn't bring it. Well, you can forward it to all of us.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I can look at it on my cell phone. That should be fun.
Spreadsheet on
I
your.
just forwarded it to Sandy as well. I hope it's attached at the
I
bottom.
did get it. Yeah.
I don't know. So maybe that went to the wrong address.
I can't even see it.
Or, it might be slow. You're in a hotel.
I'm in Maine.
someplace. Yeah.
Oh,
I'm in
So-
Maine, so it's going to take a couple of minutes anyways, or a couple of seconds.
Well, I was looking at the art behind you on the mantle
yeah,
there. I was
nice
thinking,
fireplace.
yeah, the watercolor does sort of look like a Maine landscape, doesn't it?
I'm going to break protocol here and show you one of my favorite paintings by. Oh, Brooks just told me the one on the mantle is from Barry, Vermont,
Oh.
and this is I don't know if you'll be able to see it. Can you see it?
Oh, yes.
Beautiful.
Oh, that's
Isn't that
it's
beautiful?
watercolor? Yeah.
Yeah, it's watercolor.
Some jerseys. Are they jerseys?
Yeah, that is
Yeah, they look
beautiful.
like jerseys.
Looks like almost in the fog or something, a heavier. Well, through the lenses.
yeah.
Well, really.
Yeah, definitely. Or morning mist. So that was done by the woman I'm visiting's mother.
Oh, cool.
Ah, really, that is beautiful.
Is she in Maine? Yeah, never mind.
Yeah, I'm at. I'll just call her my lover's house. Her name is Brooks, and your mother was Jean, right? Your mother was Jean, and she's gone. She's passed, but her artwork lives on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you guys gotten my email yet?
I have it, yes.
Okay.
You listed the numbers.
Can I-
So,
And I can
Yes,
maybe write
these-
that down here for me.
These are span numbers.
Oh.
Span. Okay.
Okay.
Would you like me to write these down?
sure.
We'll have to get Amanda to help us, right?
Did we didn't look at any landowners up on Pleasant Valley, sort of before Irish settlement and after Corbett Road, kind of landowners? Those had been an area that we had looked at one point for wildlife corridors,
Oh,
but I just.
So, they're all 660209. One is 10968,
6'8".
right?
Okay.
The first one belongs to Launa Caruth.
Oh, you have that names? Okay.
No, I did a different one, but yeah.
Oh, okay.
Does anybody know her? Launa?
No.
Where
That's on Route 15.
Where Route 15?
668 Route 15. So I know this is like on the big wetland on the creek, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
is it?
I think it's,
How do you access it? Off of Poker Hill or off of?
It's right across from Reaper Road.
Oh, it's from.
Right next to Route 15.
Mm-hmm. That's where it is.
I want to remember most of the land was uphill from the wetland, right? And then came down to the wetland and the road.
Not on this one, the second one that you're looking at,
Okay.
Penny.
Right, Stan
Sangers.
Sanger. Right, is up Ripper Road.
So are you, do you want to go through each one of these, or at least
Well,
2 or 3 of you should have the list now?
Yeah. What I was thinking was, sometimes I look at one of these and I say, oh, just a couple parcels down, I know somebody who probably will say yes. And so I know you've gone through this whole process of figuring out, a lot of different overlapping desires on these. So I just don't know whether.
Well, you're right
Jeff?
in adding your input, because while I may go through that process, we have to face reality here. And if you think that you can get access to another parcel, then, the best laid plans can go out the window if that's where we're going to get access.
Jeff, can you call up the spreadsheet, the live spreadsheet, and see what Sandy was suggesting and see if those lots.
Well, I have ArcGIS open here, so if you were to say north or south, or I can look at the parcel.
The first one you gave us was 10,989. And I know north of that about, I don't know how many parcels up. I'll give you a parcel number. How about that? Would that work?
It might. Hold on a second.
So Sandy, are we talking about Jeff gave us a list of names and we weren't able to get some of them, and then you have checked with 3 or 4 others that you've gotten permission. So what are we asking Jeff now? Those 3 or 4 that you've gotten permission from?
He sent a Word document.
Oh, okay.
And did you get it?
Oh, no.
The Word document.
I forwarded it.
List, and that's what I was looking at now.
Oh, okay.
It should have been forwarded to you, I believe.
And how many people are on that list?
There, additional, 7, 8 parcels?
2, 4, 6, 7, yeah.
And Jeff, is this because we can't get some of the parcels that you wanted, or these are just more that you've thought of? Are we swapping?
Well, to your credit, I don't think we've ever done this type of work with this many hours allotted to wildlife winter work. So great job. And I think when we put the initial list together, we were thinking of what we usually end up getting to do a combination of road tracking and in the field tracking, which may be no more than 5, 6, 7 days. But you've allotted 100 hours towards field work. And so when I looked at the acreage of the areas that we've been granted permission to, it seemed as if we should consider some additional parcels. In other words, you've allotted that much time for me to spend in the field.
Yay! That's the most fun part. Okay, I'm writing these down so that you didn't get it yet.
No. Maine's really far away.
Those are the extra ones. I don't know
Yeah,
if
I
that's.
think it's going by horse and buggy through New
It
Hampshire.
is, yeah. Maybe, I don't know if this back and forth is constructive. You know, I can take a look at these and put them on a map, and we can figure out, you know, whether or not they're going to work. And maybe I can have a conversation with you another
Yeah,
time if we're not making progress on that.
yeah,
Does
I
that
think that's a
sound
good idea.
better?
And Sandy, can Jeff take a look at the extra ones that you
He
identified?
did.
And, oh,
He
are any
did.
of those?
Oh yeah, I looked at them. They're definitely sites we would visit,
Okay.
and they're all large, but
Yeah.
I think 5/6 of each one of those parcels, and that's just, don't quote me on that 5/6, but the vast majority of the natural community types are northern hardwood,
All the
within a
same.
bunch of those bigger parcels. And if any of you have skied through, you know, sugar maple forest in the winter, you don't see a lot of tracks, and I fear it would be a very ineffective use of my time to spend a lot of time wandering through those, you know, vast northern hardwood forests. I don't know if you guys have ever experienced this, but you ski through one of those forests and you come across a 5 acre patch of balsam fir or red spruce or hemlock, and that's where all the tracks are, coming in and out of those areas, you know. And so while we can certainly visit those larger parcels that you added later in the process, I don't think I want to spend 8 hours, you know, in many of those
Right.
parcels, 6 of
Not very
which may be
constructive.
wandering between beech trees, maple, and birch trees.
Yeah.
Okay.
Another question I had was, we have a lot of people that spend time in the woods. Is there a
Yeah.
way to use information on sightings, either tracks or, you know, I saw porcupine damage today, or, you know, is there a sort of a crowdsourcing method to this?
Good idea.
Sure. And I believe every, or the vast majority of the other projects where we've done natural resource inventories for towns, the town either requested or we worked with the town to set up a map that could be put in public places with different colored stickums that would indicate the presence, or you just put a number or a letter that corresponds to some text that can then be provided about what was seen in that location. I'm not sure why that wasn't done in this case. Michael Lou Smith, of course, has worked mostly with you guys. But Aaron Worthley, our IT and mapping personnel, who I imagine you may have worked with, generally sets up a program like that. We put all those wildlife observations or wildlife sign observations on a map. We turned it into a digital form, and then I use it, and Aaron uses it when we write up our compilation about wildlife habitat in your town. We of course can't, unless, and you do have some very well educated wildlife people in your town, but in general we tend not to give as much credence to what a citizen said they found, just because in some cases we get, you know, reports of mountain lion and wolves and stuff like that, and you know, you got to take it with a grain
It
of
was a
salt.
catamount. Yeah.
It was.
And I'm the first to admit that catamounts are probably here in you know, somewhat limited numbers, but you know, I spent a lot of time in the woods. I've spent 40 years in the woods in Vermont, and I have yet to see one. Doesn't mean they're not there, but I've seen a lot of things that I wondered if maybe they were, but I don't think I've ever found anything where I would, give it a lot of credibility. Certainly not, over 50% chance that I ever saw one. So anyways, generally, when towns ask us to do that, that's part of the allotted budget. I looked at part of the contract, but I'm not sure I saw it in the contract. That being said,
I think we started during COVID, and we started down this whole public awareness thing, but we had to do it online, and I don't know. Our process has been scattered, so I think it would be a good idea. What do you guys? I mean, it's a good outreach tool, if nothing else.
Yeah.
Well, I think it may be worthwhile taking some money away from my field budget and allotting it to this purpose. 9 or 10 days of field work versus 11 or 12, I'm not sure it really matters. And if you feel it's important for the community buy-in into this whole process to contribute what they know and what they see, then I'm in full agreement. I also think it's important because while I mentioned these very large forest blocks that are organized east to west across the town, I should say north to south, but you can move across the town and they move east to west. While these big forest blocks are obviously important for the continued viability of deep forest species in your town, I personally believe that the small forest blocks near the community where people see wildlife are just as important to protect, to remain viable and producing the wildlife that they have been producing. And that type of information is probably more likely to come from you guys than it is from me. So I can make the suggestion to the group, Michael and Aaron in particular, that and I haven't seen the hands raised, but does everyone feel it's a
we'll discuss that and get back to you. How about that?
Okay,
I'll send
perfect.
you an email about that. All right.
Okay, perfect then.
'Cause we haven't had a chance to really talk about it, but yeah.
Yep.
Okay. And I was looking at the Johnson report, which has quite a lot of wildlife in it. Is that what you envision as an outcome where you'll be able to see crossings or, be able to rank habitat that way?
The Johnson report, and again, I'm not sure if you engaged Aaron in doing this, but in most of our natural resource inventories, Aaron was asked to map potential wildlife corridors based on the presence of people, the presence of roads, and the presence of certain environmental factors that wildlife prefer when they travel across roads, which is really what we're talking about when we're talking about corridors. So he does a modeling scenario where he divides up the landscape into tiny little cells, and then those cells are given a certain permeability to wildlife, and that results in a color-coded map showing where the potential likely corridors are. And that's been a part of our process in probably in 90% of our town inventories. Do you remember if that was part of the contract?
I don't think we have ever talked with Aaron. We mostly talked with Michael. So, yeah,
Hmm.
we don't.
It, why
I
don't
guess
you
we don't
consider?
really know what we're getting. That it's just been a little vague, is all.
So why don't you consider whether or not you would like Aaron to do this modeling exercise, and you could attach some strength of your desire to have this done to any comment that you would give back to me. We generally mix the modeling with field work, and so if this particular project, and it does seem heavily weighted towards the field work, if you were to decide that you guys wanted this modeling, then we could open up that discussion. Okay?
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And when he does that modeling, my field work, I do know that the contract calls for at least 2 days of my work to do road tracking. So Arrowwood has developed an app on a phone where I drive all your roads, and when I see a track, I wreak havoc on the road by pulling over to the side if I have to, getting out and staying within the right of way, the legal right of way of the road, so that we don't have to get landowner permission. Identify the track or tracks, and press my little app button. And it ends up with, a list of where the species were seen crossing roads and what the relative abundance is. And then Aaron, uses that, or I use that in concert with Aaron's modeling and my field work in the woods to get a fairly, it is a snapshot in time. And that's all it is. But that's all the tracking and the road tracking and my work in the woods is. Aaron's modeling is a little bit more than a snapshot in time, right? Trees aren't going to disappear in a matter of days, so they're more lasting. So I guess Michael kind of ran this show, and I don't know if you steered him or if he steered you in what you wanted for a final product. But I think we can talk about slight changes if that's what you're interested in.
Yeah.
And that would have to be a discussion, right? So
Yeah. Thank you. We'll get back to you on that and figure out a little bit more. It's been helpful to me to hear the whole picture and understand how you're making these selections, and that it's based on some of the natural communities, some of the forest blocks, and those connections that way. So,
and actually, the point about the road tracking is interesting because we weren't driving; we were just walking the roads, but stayed in the town right of way and took note. This was 10 years ago or so, but just you're doing it fast. Yeah.
Were you working with keeping track, or were you doing it just as a conservation commission, or?
We were doing, just blanking on what his name is. Jesse. He was doing the Uplands project with Richmond, Jericho, Underhill, and I think Bolton, and we were tracking to see where the wildlife corridors were. It was a long time ago. I did
that project.
Oh, you did that?
I did the Chittenden County Upland project, those 4 towns.
Yeah. Oh, you did? Oh, okay. So we gave you data, I think.
Arrowwood did those projects, and I of course, did the wildlife part of it. Jesse is, I can't remember his last name, but it has the letters
Moore.
OHR in it, doesn't it?
Yes, it's
Moore?
M-O, Moore. Yeah,
MOHR or
M-O-H-R. Yeah, I
yeah,
thought
yeah.
that, yeah, yeah.
So he would have been doing that separate from the from our project, which was a 4-town project. But it's great if he did something, and it'd be really helpful to see his data.
Yeah, that was, and you have that? Did you send me that? No, somebody, I wasn't, I was out, it was a long time ago, but I thought Jesse Moore was our contact. Did he feed data to you guys doing it for the Uplands
No, I
project?
don't think I don't remember receiving data from Jesse.
Yeah.
You know, they were also doing the work. I think Jesse was working with another researcher on wildlife movement in Chittenden County, related to the Department of Transportation. So that may have been a completely separate thing, but
Yeah.
he's really
But
good.
that actually might have been part of it, because we were looking at heavily traveled roads in particular into Underhill. Pleasant Valley, Irish Settlement, Route 15 were our prime targets. It wasn't any fun on Route 15. Yeah.
Jeff, I just have a question for you about ledge.
Yeah.
The ledge that you were talking about, the ledge communities, is that something that's not subjective, that's pretty objective, that people could take pictures of ledge to show you? Would that be helpful or not? If they have ledge property?
It could be helpful in saying this is worth going to or not worth going to. Again, if it's just straight ledge without any broken, tumbly rocks at the bottom that can be used by, a wide variety of animals, it's more likely to be used by peregrine falcons and nesting ravens and things like that, which you're not going to. You might find evidence of this time of year. Have you ever seen an old raven's nest on a ledge? It could be 5 feet across. You can't miss it. They're big, beautiful piles of sticks. But
So this isn't ledge. For instance, my neighbor has ledge and his property. You can walk down the hill and look back, and half of the hill is ledge. But that's also the top of that is a hiking trail. So you're talking about ledge so high up that no one would ever be on the top of the ledge. Is that right? Or
no, the ledge can be on the ground. The important thing is that the ledge is not contiguous or continuous all the way down to the ground, that there's some place where the ledge has an indentation with rocks around, so that animals could get into it. It's sort of like a cave, but it's a different type of formation, of course. It's not a true cave, but a hollow spot within the ledge where wildlife can go to get out of inclement weather, and most importantly for things like bobcat, defend themselves against a pack of coyotes. So often these broken ledge habitats only have one entrance, ingress or outgress, one place where a predator could attack. Otherwise, bobcat are goners, right? If a coyote can get in from the front and the back, and they hunt as a pack. So, and I'm using bobcats and coyotes as the example because biologists tend to think those are the ones that, use these sites for reproduction and for mating and for rearing their young. But certainly, as a biologist, I go into every ledge site that's open, and broken that I can. And you look for hairs on the walls, you look for scat, you look for tracks. They're fascinating places, and they're heavily used.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Sometimes you find a fire pit and an old sleeping bag.
A couple of beer cans.
Yeah, a beer can. Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else we can help you with?
I think the next process is for you to mull over what we had talked about, and then have sort of an iterative process about parcels. Once you get these parcels up and you look at them on the map, and that may be helpful for us to do that. Okay?
Okay.
Sounds
Okay.
good. Does anyone have questions? You know, we never really introduced ourselves, so better late than never. I'm Sandy.
Yeah.
Sandy Wilmot.
I'm Karen McKnight.
Yeah.
Penny
Hi,
Miller.
Karen. Yeah. I figured it out.
And Ryan.
Right, he's way over in the corner there.
Okay.
I guess one
Did
maybe.
you put him in the
question
corner?
on-
Yeah.
Yes.
He went there himself. Is of this list, Jeff, that we have online of homeowners, of property owners, I think you indicated that some of them really aren't ultimately the ones that you might want to visit. So is that something that you could mark on there, which ones you're not going to visit, in case any of them come back to me and say, Penny, I thought Jeff was going to visit and I haven't seen them? I think that you've just said that some you may not visit.
I don't think I said that. What I said is that, these 180 acre parcels, I may visit 10 acres of it because there's a diversity of natural communities or some wildlife feature that I want to go to. And the rest of it is, a distant walk and likely to be a very similar natural community and hit and miss in terms of seeing wildlife tracks. So I haven't discounted any of the parcels as of yet.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Enjoy your Maine trip.
Yes. Eat
Okay.
lots of loaves. Or scallops or something.
I will mention that I'm in Maine, but I'm flying to Florida tomorrow for 4 days of tennis. But when I get back, we haven't had a great tracking winter yet. We've had a couple of weeks where, if we were further along in the process, I probably would have done tracking. But in other words, time is not on our side. We need to move, I think, fairly quickly at this point. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Sounds good.
All right.
We're with you.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Take care.
Yep.
Nice
Take
to
care,
meet you.
everyone.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Person. Right.
Okay.
Why wasn't I a wildlife biologist to go out and play in the woods all the time?
You do a pretty good job of working out in the woods.
Well, what do you folks think about some of these options? I guess maybe we never had a discussion with Michael that
Yeah, I feel
was
like
clear.
I thought this was more of like a standard product. They have done many of these, so
Right.
we would have been getting something similar to all the other ones they've done. But I didn't get the feeling like when we wrote the contract that they were like, oh, you may want to think about this or this. It's like they took our suggestions or what we wanted done and didn't really stray outside that.
Mm-hmm. We mentioned wildlife a lot, so it became
Yeah.
all about wildlife, I guess.
So
Yeah.
I'm a little bit surprised that some of these things weren't brought to,
Yeah.
be like, oh, well, we've done this. You guys may want to think about budgeting for that. Or sounds like we still can.
Right.
Just you need to be a
Cut
change
his
in the
back.
contract.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it's interesting.
So does that mean that they're not covering, say, wetlands and other, say, wetlands as thoroughly as they would have with other towns? They're focusing mainly on wildlife, or they're doing they're doing everything for us and expanding the wildlife? Is that what you're feeling about that? So let me just say this. I think I misunderstood all along. We got this list together quite a long time ago.
Mhm.
I never heard, and I thought through things I had read from minutes maybe, that it wasn't only about wildlife tracking, that they were going out to look at
Verification. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we never heard from them that they were actually using this list and doing any site visits. And when I asked him the question at one point, I think during the situation with Jim that you weren't involved with them right then, I sent them an email. I don't know if you remember, and I had asked, "What's the intent behind this? I'm new on this committee," and he said, "These parcels for wildlife tracking in the snow in the winter." And I thought, well, that's funny because I read it. Maybe it was meeting minutes from earlier about going out and looking at wetlands or whatever. So
The
I
whole
was-
verification process, I
was
never
a little
quite
confused
got
about what and when they were verifying. I thought, if you go out in the snow, how are you going to tell wetlands and vernal pools out in the snow? So I thought, I don't know what's going on.
Well, that question did come up. I remember that one coming up. How do we know it's a vernal pond if there's 3 feet of snow on top of it?
So,
Did he answer that?
I'd have to look back, but so basically I'm saying that I was kind of confused about what the whole site visit thing was anyway. So we started getting this together for them some time ago, and I actually had homeowners that said, yes, you can come, but not after January
Sure.
1st. It's gonna,
Yeah.
but I guess from hearing him, he hasn't visited that parcel, so I don't know if that's even
Well,
a
it's
moot-
clear on
moot
there
point
that
now.
he can't visit it, right?
But maybe he has already visited it, so I don't know.
No.
So he hasn't done anything yet. I see. Okay.
And originally, when we were looking for landowner permissions, Michael had said, yeah, we'll probably start visiting in September, which
Right.
seemed
That's what
okay.
I saw, September.
Going to verify natural communities. So it all changed, and I don't know exactly why. And
Yeah, I think a lot of these permissions we've had in place for
yeah,
at least 4 to 5 months.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like, which I'm surprised that now he's saying we're kind of like pressed for time.
Right, because I think he's also been adding, how many at the bottom? I just added,
7.
yeah. That's,
Well, I appreciate how clear his selection was. That's what I needed to hear. Like,
yeah.
it seems so willy-nilly. But they're trying to find, edges of natural communities where they, they'll look for abundance.
This is why we picked them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I think we're going to get good information from that. The question in my mind is, let's maximize what we can get at this point. We probably aren't going to get the, off the ground natural community verification because, they'll be done by the end of April and writing it up. So
Was that, having not read the contract for a long time, is that part of the contract that they would be field verifications of, or it just said we'll get a natural community map?
We should revisit the contract. 'Cause I can't remember.
So it was the phase 1. So the part of this is my fault. Phase 1 was supposed to also include this final report, right?
Right. Yeah.
And we something happened. We wanted them to do the phase 2.
We didn't have the money.
And we didn't have enough money for everything.
Right.
So I said, well, include the report in phase 2.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's good, right?
Right?
But I think in phase 1, they often have more information in the report, and it has to do with some of the ranking of natural communities. Because I looked on their maps and I couldn't see where they did a lot of ranking. They did it for wetlands, but I didn't see it for a lot of the natural communities, and that's something I think we're going to need.
Mhm.
So I know for the phase 2, we got this sheet that was a breakout of wildlife, this many hours, this price, and that was like the extent of what we had going into it, and then that became the contract.
Right.
So I was confused. Is that what you're looking at? Is the
I was
contract?
looking they're phase 1 with the report, which isn't the contract. I don't know where the contract is. So, I mean, they do talk about which natural communities are important, but this is all based on data crunching, right, from maps and the like, not from field verification.
Yeah, they can do quite a lot from based on soils and
Like forest block 23 is likely to play an important role in the westward dispersal of wide-ranging wildlife to and from forest block 20. So, Ryan, I took your maps and I overlaid them on the parcels, the zoning parcels, as best I could in Photoshop, just to give me an idea, just so I could figure out what was where.
Right.
But what I didn't have at the time was the natural communities map. Is that what it was called? Whatever they called it. But I think I just got it. So this is the wetlands one. So I can actually see, I live here, and so that's the wetland. This is my neighbor's wetland. But let me just open up that natural community one. I don't know if I got it from you or I had to snag it from somewhere else. But we only have 2 maps. We have.
This is the natural community here.
Is it? Okay. Yep, that's what I found. I guess you did that. Yes, you did that, and I must have found it somewhere. So it's slightly helpful for me to have, you had talked about you could do that, and we all said, well, we don't think we need that, but it ended up being slightly helpful to have property lines on there. If they had parcel codes, it'd even be more lovely. But I think having people go out and track, unless it was well organized, well advertised, and explained well what is needed, there isn't much time to do that. We're already February,
Yeah, I think that's like
It's a pipe dream.
Yeah.
That's a pipe dream.
Yeah.
Also, I have neighbors that see tracks in the snow. And from my understanding what the tracks are and what they think they are, it's far different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
it's not easy.
Yeah, it's not easy.
Right.
And also you can't look at a track that's been sitting in the sun.
Right.
I mean,
they distort quickly.
Yeah, things distort, especially when you're looking at, is this a fox or did it morph into a bobcat? I mean, it's not, they're not similar because one's a cat and one's more of a
right.
Well, a dog kind of paw, but you know what I mean.
Scat might be, if you were going to do something that was a little more solid, that might be something.
Yeah.
All right, so we aren't so hot on the map and stickies then. That's kind of.
I think citizen science is kind of late for that, to not be too organized about it yet, to kind of pull that in.
And then the other part where Aaron would do it's really modeling and looking at permeability in corridors. I think that's exactly what we want, right?
Really super helpful.
Yeah, I think it would be really helpful.
Feels like one of our goals that we wanted to meet at the end of this.
And do you think that's in the contract? Is that in the contract, do you think, or that's?
It didn't
No.
sound like
Oh,
it. It
okay.
sounded
Oh,
like
all right.
he was interpreting the contract to be really field work for wildlife.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I have the first one, but I don't have the second one, the phase one. But
I think the modeling would be really helpful.
Yeah, in some ways I thought we would get that in the end, but
yeah,
maybe. we
I
still
think
can't, I guess.
you're right. We assumed it was the regular thing, and even in the phase one part at the end, it says included in this final report will be recommendations for follow-up for phase two, including an approach to comprehensive wildlife habitat mapping, wildlife corridors, and linkage habitat and field verification. Okay, sounded like what we
Yeah.
wanted.
Yeah.
That was what we wanted.
Yeah.
Okay. So that would be, so we can make sure that we're getting that.
Yeah.
And that might be some of that taking hours away from him and putting toward Aaron. Okay.
He seems to be pretty good with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that, we won't do the stickies. We'll need to work on the parcels and figure out where they are and get
And
some more landowner.
Do you want me to get that to
commissions.
Amanda tomorrow and get her to fill it in?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
She did
that'd
that
be great.
last time. Okay.
So those three things, and what was the fourth thing? 1, 2.
Is it worth, if people have, getting the word out, if people have big areas of ledge to take photos, or not worth it?
I don't think so. Boy, the way he was describing it, I was trying to
I've never seen any.
visualize
I know. It would have to be him sending photos, and we'd have to see if there are any.
I mean, I know where there are ledges like that, but that's not on private property. It's more on state park or government park.
Yeah.
Lots of,
Does sound like
Yeah.
rural kind of.
yeah,
Yeah.
lots of that up in the Nebraska Notch area.
Yeah.
It's just loaded with that. What he was talking about.
He's not talking about my rock garden. No.
No.
Ledge.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to verify with him also about, I don't think we really want him to do inventory on the Mount Mansfield State Forest. And I hope we've said that before, but I think I need to reiterate that.
Yeah. I'm just thinking, when I tracked in the fresh snow things, that they do go up where Jeff Davis's property is.
Yeah. Sue Morrison's been up there a bunch.
Yeah. I mean, the animal critters.
Is that one of what the properties we're looking at?
I don't think it was.
No, which actually kind of surprised me because there is a large wetland complex
Yeah.
on this property, but
Yeah.
it's also very it's a wetland. It's obvious, and of course there's going to be edge there, and and it does roll right into the state forest. So
It does. Yeah, it does. And yeah, one of those ski trails, they have little marks on the trees, metal marks.
Mhm.
Yeah, that say that, which I hadn't noticed until one day I noticed, when I was skiing out there. I went, oh,
state forest markers, yeah.
yeah. It was pretty interesting. But yeah, Jeff Davis is in there. And I mean, I don't think that the Sue Kushera property that is there either, which is, when I think of the tracks that I've seen, because it's wet, the pond area where at the end of Beartown is part range, part private. And the stands of trees up there, I think, well, hasn't been part of anything. But Jeff Davis's would be good because there are beech trees, stands of beech tree, and it's got ledges and I couldn't imagine that he'd have a problem with this. It's not like he's going to develop it. You can't. I mean, a lot of you just can't.
This one goes off on that.
I have, some of the people especially a couple that said no.
It goes back.
I was thinking, because they said, we don't know what we're gonna wanna do with our property or develop it. I'm thinking, you come to the TRB, you're gonna have to have that information,
Yeah.
you know, because now they're getting much better. I mean, we are getting much better about demanding.
So that's also then this one, that's this here, too, then, right? That was the one you were pointing out.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
What was the point? Yeah,
Jeff Davis's, I just thought,
yeah.
oh, is that one?
No, wait a minute.
So Ryan's saying this one here. And,
It goes up.
but Ryan, you were saying is that where you're saying there's a big wetland? Is that maybe not showing up
I
on
think this is
here?
not off the map or.
Oh, okay. Oh, right. Because this is
There's one over here, and then it might be these ones back in here.
okay.
I don't remember.
Just gonna look at that
Those are ponds in there.
as a possibility.
Here, I'll take this one.
And would he be open to the idea of?
I'm not sure.
I would think you might.
Doesn't look very big on this map.
Is this private property up in here? Different parcels?
What do you guys think?
How would they even?
This is, yeah, like the scary parking lots, like, or the hiking parking lots right
It's right there. Oh, okay,
It's
so,
few right before.
yeah, oh, okay, I know. Dr. What were their names? They from Rhode Island, and then the kids took down the old house and built a.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Mm.
was Wheelers, and then,
right. What there?
What's his name? Toll, used to have,
Yeah.
Will Toll
That was
had,
Will?
used to have property there, yeah.
That one, and then the last one is where the old log cabin is.
Yeah,
That
and that's, yeah, and she lives over in,
All right.
you know, what's her, I can't even think what her name is right now. I know where she lives exactly on Mountain Road. Yeah,
So I guess the only thing we can really do, action item, is to get the names and try and divvy them up and see if we know anybody, and if we don't, then try and find a neighbor that we know, right? Maybe we can mark them on the map, and if we don't know them, and see who we know around them.
I think it'll just take a minute to figure out who they are.
Maybe I can't tell from those numbers. Are you able to find out from the span numbers?
Oh, well, you have to put it into the map viewer, but yeah.
Oh, I tried to do that and I was not successful.
So this one, the first one, 10989 is,
Do a search on that, Sandy? Is that how you do it? Is searching?
well, you just put the span number in the search bar.
Really? Oh. It wasn't successful. Okay.
Is this the list right here?
Yeah. Sorry.
We'll see if we know anybody anyways.
Is this the A&R map, the natural resources map?
It's called Parcel Viewer.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't know
It's very easy to use. So this is LAUNA Caruth, and it's BT668. I don't know who that is. There'll be one that somebody will know, and then you can say, "Oh, I'll take that one." 10968. I think I know who this is. Oh, yeah, no. This is John Thomas, who I know. He won't even let my sister go skiing on his land.
Oh, that's 968.
Yes.
But it's right next to Rita and John
Oh, right.
Finley's.
Oh, that's the-
So
That's 65 Tupper, I think, John Thomas.
yeah, that's who
Okay.
that is.
Oh, it seems to like didn't we do an excursion in there with Val one time?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
went
that's
on
right.
Rita's property.
Yeah. No, yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah, that was fun. It was very, saw some interesting.
So this is Poker Hill 211, and it's Dale Kowalowski and Monica Kowalowski. 211. What's? Oh, well, you're not Poker Hill, though, are you?
Yeah. Poker Hill.
Dale
Red spruce cinnamon fern swamp.
Kowalowski.
Hmm.
Okay, so far not so good. 186. Somebody must have bought it. Let's see. Irish Settlement 703 is right next door. Somebody, it's at the end of this road. Sometimes when they've been bought or something, it won't show it on the map who owns it.
It does it even have it as a separate parcel?
Oh, I think I know who this is. This
Oh
is
my word, look at that property
Which
on
property?
Poker Hill Road. Wait, let me see if I can get I'll show you look at where it's frontage on Poker Hill Road, Karen.
Which property is it?
That's the Kowalski, or it's
Whoa.
100 acres. Look at that on Poker Hill Road.
I'd say that's a non-conforming lot.
I'd say that frontage on Poker
No
Hill.
problem.
Yeah.
Where is that on Poker Hill? Now, wait a minute.
211, so that's the cemetery is right
behind the center.
Let's see. Cemetery,
It's near
there's
where,
Timber Ridge,
where
There's
Don Toby lives,
the
right in
Fife
there.
Fields, there's Poker Hill School. Yeah, it's right there. It's right there.
Well, that'll take some work. I don't know.
Well, do you think Don
that's-
Toby would know and be able to?
Maybe.
Look at that. Wow. Talk about forest fragmentation there. Building their house way out there.
This is John Ferguson. You know Dr. Ferguson?
Yeah.
Bundine Road.
Is he family medicine?
First one on the left.
Yeah, he is family
No,
medicine.
He was. I don't know where he is now. He's probably retired. That might be a yes, I would hope. But so while we're doing this, the other idea that Penny and I had talked about was getting together with different sort of experts in town to have them look at the maps and say, ecologically, what do they think is valuable, important, priority?
Mhm.
Like I was talking to someone I know, Jason Crooks, who does birding in town, and he was talking about how whenever he goes to the certain wetland, he's bound to see a whole diversity of birds, and it isn't something I would have thought of, but just to get another take, I guess.
That's nice. Is Stacy Pomeroy from Underhill?
No, Richmond. Um, anyways, I was hoping to like have coffee with people and bring the maps and just get their take on things.
Yeah, that's like a buy-in for those people, and then they know people.
Yeah, hopefully they have friends that
They have friends too. Make all the outreach. Maybe while you're doing that, I could talk about what Sabina Erd had to say.
Yes, that's good.
We had a nice conversation with Sabina. I had contacted her because I had tasked myself with trying to figure out some avenues for us to market this.
She's from Jericho and is on the
Conservation Commission and the Planning Commission.
How do you spell her name?
Sabina.
No, E-R.
E-R-N-S-T.
E-R-N. Ernst.
So I'm trying to figure out how we can market this, and I think Sandy wants to segue it to the Conservation Commission anyway, doing the outreach.
Mm-hmm.
So I asked her what. So I'm trying to gear up. I'm trying to get the Conservation Commission geared up for this. So I wanted to ask Sabina what they did, because they have an overlay district. I thought they had one, and in fact they do. And get this is kind of interesting. What they did was they created this overlay district, which does not mean you can't develop in the overlay district. Sabina said, we could never tell landowners that they can't develop. But what they do is it triggers the DRB to consult with the Conservation Commission, so that if the property is in the overlay district, it goes to the Conservation Commission to make recommendations for what should be done on that property. I thought that was kind of interesting.
What exactly is an overlay district? Now I've heard the term, but
I think it came from by the way, I'm not sick, I'm COVID nervous, so I'm wearing a mask. It comes from, I think, the transparent overlays that people used to put on things. So it's just coloring up a transparent overlay and putting it on the map, and whatever falls within that color.
so it could be an overlay of anything.
What's the criteria?
Yeah.
What is their criteria for their overlay district?
Well, Sandy might remember this, but they had Arrowwood do this whole assessment, and then they classified their resources in terms of primary is irreplaceable, secondary is almost irreplaceable, and then there was tertiary. So the Arrowwood, I think, helped them to figure out this primary, secondary, tertiary. And so their zoning regulations actually have this in the zoning regulations. If it's a primary overlay district, it does this and that and that. And so all the resources, the natural resources, were given a label and criteria in the zoning regulations. So they said that their Conservation Commission also may, in this overlay district, do a site visit. They may recommend calling in a consultant to talk about this. So they're basically an advisory board.
I think our town plan says that for Underhill, for Conservation Commission. Doesn't have it defined as overlay district, but in the
that they can our zoning
they should be consulted,
right, and our zoning regs say that also. Then she talked about how they have a conservation reserve fund, and that they stole this from Richmond.
I really wish we had one.
And have you ever heard of it, Ryan? Mm-hmm. I hadn't. It's 1/2 cent on the grand list value.
Yeah.
And they have a list of criteria, apparently Richmond has, and Jericho took it, a list of criteria of how the money can be spent. They have an online application for funding. You can come to the Conservation Commission that reviews all the applications, and they make recommendations to the select board, and then the select board decides who gets the funding. So I don't know what all the criteria is, if they only give out a certain amount of money a year or whatever. But she said they just contributed the Conservation Reserve Fund contributed $65,000 to conserve the Davis Farm recently. That was like, that kicked in.
Yeah.
$65,000. That's amazing. And we were about $100 for, the copy paper or something.
I think it's also, though, we have talked about that as a project. How do we do that? How do we have that in place?
And how do you get the buy-in from the community
and
to
from
do
the
that?
select board?
Yes, right.
They're rolling their eyes sometimes.
So this whole project sort of was kicked off in 2010, I think, and I don't remember it, maybe you folks do. It was the Science to Action Project, and it was some funding they got, like $40,000 of funding, and they got Jericho, Richmond, Bolton, and Huntington together, not Underhill, to work on this whole thing. They did basically what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I think what happened was it was Richmond that instigated it.
Oh.
So it was,
The
who's
surrounding
around
towns,
us.
I
Yeah.
see.
And we talked to 3 of those towns early on in our process to try to figure that out. And that's why we started down the road of trying to do the community values thing, because they had found that very helpful.
Right.
Yeah.
And so she sent some suggestions to us. They did during this process of buy-in, which I don't even know. I'm wondering if we need to have a group meeting with the Conservation Commission, or when we transfer over these activities to Conservation Commission. Like they had office hours that were maybe once a week or once a month or something, that people could call in or come in and talk to them about what this all means. So
this is my parcel here, and it's part of, this is the way the map looks, the overlay.
Oh, this is
districts. Yeah. So.
Do you have that in the viewer, by any chance? Is that where you're getting that from? This is
a PDF.
So the what is it? League of Cities and Towns. I didn't know about this viewer, but Sandy, apparently you know, and everybody else knows it, but not me, about that viewer where you can turn on and off the overlay.
Oh, the CCRPC.
Right.
You go there and they have map data for each town.
Could you show that?
Can
you pull that up? Can that come up quickly? That's pretty interesting. And then they have their overlay districts there. We also have a map there. Every town appears to have a map there, and we can choose our layers. I mean, we can add layers to it and get it more customized. But I don't know that we need to. Do we talk about this here, or is that the Conservation Commission should be doing that?
Well,
I think whatever work we do will sort of drive that. If it's decided we need an overlay district or want one, this will be a major component of that.
That will be.
Looking at Jericho's, it looks like everything's a little buffered.
So there's Underhill.
Ta-da.
Have to agree. There's Underhill.
So it shows the zoning districts, and they have it's very straightforward, and you can look at the layers.
That's it, the layers.
So, like, if you want to turn that off, you can.
So basically, that's what I'm trying to show on these maps, right? It's the zoning districts.
Oh, what is that?
With
What are you just showing
This
us?
is 1,500 foot elevation.
Oh, I like that.
Here's
cool
known
map.
constraints, local constraints, state constraints.
And the Jericho one, it's not just a matter of moving the map, right? Can you get to Jericho to show their overlays, or how do you do that?
Sure. They have them all separate. I don't think you can put them together, but.
Oh, there it is, Jericho map here. So under their layers, where is it? It's under natural zoning overlays. I think it's the one below it. If you collapse that, I think it's the one right below, up above that. Oh no, there it is. Primary, no, yeah,
It is,
yeah,
yeah.
that's it.
And
So they can turn those layers on.
oh,
and
so
off.
here it shows what the primary areas are.
Oh.
So these are, what was the word? Irreplaceable.
Irreplaceable.
So there's a little red dot, you mean a couple of them?
Yeah.
One on 15, sort of off 15, and then that one's, what is that? Is that Nashville Road or no?
This is
Not, that's,
by the river, right?
yeah.
So Sandy, could you turn off the secondaries? We could just see the primary. It's down. It's where, no, lower to the bottom. One more right there. So the primary.
So upland, so you have some upland natural communities here.
Riparian area.
Skunk
Hollow. Okay.
And you have the forested riparian areas, purple.
So when they're doing their, zoning applications and the like, they can.
Right.
That is very neat.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that before.
I know. And would you mind turning off the primary and turning it back on just so people can see when it's.
Okay, now then it's on.
There's secondary.
So vernal pools are all the purple. Ledge cliffs, I guess they have some.
How do they know that those are the vernal pools?
They said they've been mapped. Didn't
They've
they say
been
they
mapped
have-
by whom?
I don't know if it was
Okay,
AE or.
the person, you have Liz Thompson that lives in Jericho.
Oh, yeah,
okay?
right. She probably.
So she's probably gone out and done a lot of these herself. Between her and some Moors and, wildlife crossings.
And the landowners say, okay, you can do that?
All right. Well, what is that? Wait a minute, Karen. What is that gray area? Is that Jericho or is that Underhill or what?
What,
or
not-
Bolton? What's to the?
Oh, this is the range.
Oh, that's the
Yeah.
range.
Yeah. Look at all the
So
vernal
you did
pools.
all that.
Yeah. So talking about
But now you're on the
who
map.
did it? Yeah.
Hey, I was just thinking about how we might be able to use some of the data there, and I know location and everything is probably not something we could have, but what about like a list of species and or natural communities and acres or something like that, that are just in Underhill?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if that could be
ask.
folded into the
Certainly.
modeling or
Yeah.
something. What Ryan's done, folded into Aaron's modeling somehow. I don't know. No.
Yeah, well, without location, I
We
don't
can't do
think
that.
so,
Like
but you'd
our-
have a table or something.
Yeah, we have like natural communities, like high priority natural communities that are part of the state, that's already on the state. If you look up natural.
Oh, on their
Yeah.
their website?
Yeah, it's all part of that already.
Okay.
I mean, like all the data doesn't say exactly, like for rare and threatened species. That's
Yeah.
what's there. but
It's masked.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah, we have some of both those data, but it's all integrated into the state data already because we had Brett Engstrom do it and
Okay.
work with the state to like.
Is it on these maps that they've done?
I don't know. Probably not. I think.
Yeah, so this is, this is the range road, right? It looks like
Should have
it's
range boundary on this, but yeah.
on there, and then they just, go,
First in the year and then
yeah.
here, but
I know I'm gonna check, but the natural communities they have for Mount Mansfield looks very blank. And I know that the state has done a pretty comprehensive one, but I looked online and on the Vermont Atlas, they don't have Mount Mansfield State Forest on there.
Oh, really?
I was like, really? What are you guys
Forgot about
doing?
that one.
So,
They've been focusing on the Worcester Range.
Yeah, right. Oh my gosh.
so not including the state park area, forest area on our mapping, does that, I mean, animals are traveling back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
So it would be good to have some of that, you mean?
I would think it would be good. I mean, I'm just
Yeah.
thinking of where the state land intersects with private, where it seems like it's very interesting for animals. You're beginning to see animals moving around, I think, a lot more right now in the last week or so. I'm hearing a lot in the woods at night, and when I go down,
Mm-hmm.
they're coming right through my yard a lot, which is interesting. So I was thinking that maybe I'm closer, I'm right on the range, but just a little bit above me is the state, really the state property, and Jeff Davis. So, I mean, a little bit, it's probably, a couple miles, maybe not that far, but
Pretty close, yeah.
pretty close, yeah.
Well, if we're using this for regional planning
Yeah.
too, it would seem like you want to include all of that. I would
Yes,
think.
I would think. Well, fringe areas of it, we could say, something.
Yeah, maybe I'll just ask him what his plans were for visiting that, and if he said, "Oh yeah," like you say, I don't think we want him on the top of the mountain,
No.
like mapping where the ravens are or something, but I don't know.
And as far as how this affects future
Planning.
development, it doesn't. That is obviously protected. So
Yeah.
it kind of brings us back to like, how does this affect private property? Right?
Probably it's that old wildlife movement.
And if something has to get from here to here, it has to cross private property because there's no state land except for one little teeny tiny piece that intersects Pleasant Valley Road, at all.
Yeah. I did notice that with some of the property owners, it did seem like they were tracking it from English settlement area across Sand Hill area, sort of, and then down to Irish settlement and up. And some of those folks, like Sandy Murphy, said no. But if they tracked Crane Brook, it's almost right next to hers. You know what I mean? Because they were I think they were thinking of the cross the
Like the east-west
east,
movement.
yeah. Although, we know the animals like to go north and south, but where do they do the east-west crossing?
Right.
Yeah.
It seems like there's been some considerable investigation and a report put out on long-range management plan for Mount Mansfield State Forest. I was just looking at it. How many pages is this? Wow, it's got a lot of information. And we'd like to thank Sandy Wilmot.
Oh, wow. So you know some of this.
Yeah. That's why I know there's a better map.
Wow, nice.
Oh,
How long is a long-range management plan good for? 10 years, or is it?
I think it just said 10 to 15.
I think they were trying to make it 20. I mean, trees grow slow, right? They wanted to make them really long so that they could have like this overarching values, and then have, every year have different parcels that get some sort of management, but make it longer.
Yeah.
And I think
So
that's what they're trying to do on the Worcester Range. Isn't
Yeah,
it? Yeah.
at least. That's 20, I think, or something.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty comprehensive, though. I read through that.
Did you?
Yeah.
Mhm.
This is a nice report. Wow.
Took long enough.
It's a big, long one. Good job. 244 pages of it.
Oh, my. It's your thesis.
No, I didn't. I did some of the insect disease, climate change, how we going to adapt things.
That was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
That was 20 years ago. Wow, how have we
Thanks for
done?
reminding me.
Oh.
We're still working.
Yeah. Oh.
All right, so we've seen enough of this. I can, yeah. Okay. What else do we want to cover tonight? I'm sorry, this is very late, but
Yeah, you just gotta knock out those next landowners, I guess, right?
yeah.
Then it's kind of wait and see for them.
There's one up on Range Road. Does anyone know the Stephen and Stephanie Longshore? Does that ring a bell?
No, I used to live on Ranger. Where,
It's almost at the end.
Is it like the condo? One of the two?
It's a big parcel.
A
I
big
don't know.
parcel. Oh, so it's on the south side? Is that?
On the west side.
West side?
Mhm.
Oh, west side.
it's that big piece that goes in behind everyone.
I think so.
Sold a few years ago.
I don't know them.
Do we know anybody else around there?
Well, we
They
know
actually live on English Settlement Road, so I don't know. Maybe it's just a
Woodlawn.
woodlot.
Woodlot, yeah.
Oh,
So then there's Tim Stotts up off from
oh,
English Settlement.
McClellan Farm?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're a nice family. They had given us permission to do one of the workshops up there, so I imagine
yeah.
they'll be
Okay.
fine with it. Otherwise, I don't know.
And that's contiguous to Susan's, Adams, isn't it?
No, I think
No.
it's well,
Could sort of be because
maybe.
Blakely Road backs up into the McClellan farm area.
I think
Yeah.
it might abut Boardman's, which
Okay. Which
Yeah,
you've
that's
also gotten permission for,
Yeah.
right? So, or they could do Boardman, Stotts, Adams and have hundreds of acres.
it's a really cool place up there, though. So I imagine it would be a good place to visit. There's lots of wetlands and all kinds of things.
Yeah.
Okay, what else?
I wish I knew more people that you bring up. I thought I knew.
I know.
a lot
I
of
thought you
people.
knew everybody. In Underhill.
No,
I
guess
can't believe it.
I don't.
No.
Well, we'll
Time
get
to meet them.
the list from Amanda, and we'll go forward
Okay.
with that. Let me know if you want to meet for coffee with people with me, or I'll just contact people and
Yeah.
send you a note about when I'm doing it. And does that sound all right? I
Yeah,
know
that
you-
sounds all right. Yeah.
You probably can't make those weekday coffee things, but
Gotta get retired.
Yeah, I wish. Someday.
It's not. You don't have to go into like an office every day. But you
Carl.
are outside.
I don't. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a positive.
What about Carl Reamer? Carl is around all the time doing all sorts of things.
I know, I
He's an
don't.
amphibian person too.
Mhm.
And yeah, he's big on ticks too.
Huh. So Sandy, I did just want to ask, you sent out these beautiful pictures, and also you were starting some summaries of the different communities.
Okay.
So, but I'm wondering, so what is the point? What is the format? What is the idea behind this? Are we going to start producing some marketing materials, or do we have in mind? Did you have in your mind these are going to become slides, and we're going to? This is
So yes, I'm glad you brought that up. I thought it would be sort of up to us to do marketing stuff, right?
Oh,
the report I saw from Johnson is basically the other part of that you have in your hand. They did like a lot of that. They would have a parcel, maybe it was a forest block, and then they'd have how many acres and what forest types and what kind of species it's all, and they'll have a picture of something within that block. So that is what will be a good comprehensive report with all of that information in it. So I don't think we need to necessarily do that, and we can look and see what they come up with and pull excerpts from that. That's what I think.
You're thinking that we're going to take it to the step of slideshows for the community or that sort of thing.
Right.
Okay.
But I don't know that for sure because we've talked about having them do more outreach after they're done.
Yeah, wasn't that part of the deal that they had to give up?
In that contract?
I
think it was.
Yeah, I think it was.
I think I just saw that somewhere.
Yeah.
Might have made that up.
But some of it, like, we would still be able to do some marketing about. I'm trying to see how we do that though. I mean, do we come to the town hall and talk about?
I don't know. I think that's all part of that outreach.
We have.
Is we have to decide, and is it our
plan for
committee
that.
or is it us and the Conservation Commission deciding what sort of outreach? And I think it needs to be really tight and really consistent and really,
It does.
We've got to really think it through, I think, and do it comprehensively.
And we know that in the work, in projects for this year, that there's something, but it isn't defined because they put a holder in to say,
right,
this is what we'll.
The Conservation Commission.
Yeah, I mean, we have we're doing projects and.
So the way I see it is we'll have the report. They'll give presentation to the Planning Commission, Select Board, Conservation Commission. That'll be like a public.
That's Arrowwood.
Okay,
yes.
And then beyond that, what has been another outreach is to have physical maps up, at Mills River Park and invite the public in, and so they can kind of see and talk about their parcel and, what does this mean, that kind of thing. So that, however that transforms, I think that's probably the Conservation Commission kind of doing that part of it. Meanwhile, the Planning Commission is going to be taking these maps and trying to figure out how to incorporate them into new zoning districts,
overlays, if that's
all kinds of stuff like that, which, that's where I think I'm going to be focusing my time. So I think this committee will, to whatever each person wants to be involved in those types of activities. That's like next step kind of thing. However, I will just say that I noticed in the Johnson report, they had put like recommended management or those kind of things. And some of them are really pretty, we suggest you don't have any development in this area, so those are the kind of things that then would be incorporated into an overlay if we get to that point. But I'm hoping that some of these experts will then be drawn into it and want to participate a little bit more when we get to those outreach things that are going to be.
Oh, these experts that you're having coffee with?
Yeah.
Yes, right. Huh. Nice.
I mean, a lot of them are former state employees, and they probably had enough of that, but you never know.
You never know.
How passionate are you in your town?
Yeah. Okay, and you're also thinking just possibly this is going to happen around the April, May time period that AE is going to finish up their work and have a report ready.
June, the end of June, their contract ends.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And I mentioned, I don't know, I mentioned to you probably and Karen at the Conservation Commission that in speaking to Jens about what he's seen in other towns when they've done outreach, that he thinks it's best in the shoulder seasons, stick in mud, when people aren't too involved in other things, to look at reports and whatever, although you might want to go out on the canoe in the summer, I don't know, but he thinks that those are really good times to
Oh, then we should have
Well,
missed
so
the
we'll
spring
miss
then.
it, yeah.
Yeah, we'll miss spring.
stick in the mud. Have to do it next year. Stick for some reason.
We have to get a timeline because you're thinking about a new town, revised town
Oh, next
for 25
next
for voting in
March.
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 Yeah.
All right, next
So-
March. All right. We'll have to
Was
get
that
to
down
stick
there?
season.
No,
Zoning, I think.
we're trying to improve the zoning regulations based on the last town plan. And along with that, if we were going to do any modifications of the zoning districts. I have a
That's a tall
feeling,
order to be able to get that.
I don't think we'll get
That's a
there
long
for
process.
next year, but
Yeah.
there's some other things maybe we can do. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a slow glacial process. Slower than glacial. And winning a lot of hearts and minds on it.
So glacial.
That's what I think of it.
Uber glacial. Okay.
Well, we don't have a zoning administrator, and so we have
That
our
makes a big
meetings and
difference.
there's nobody, I mean,
Yeah.
we do all the work and we aren't very good. No.
And no one wants to be a zoning administrator.
All right, well, I think I will accept a motion to adjourn since we've been so
Yeah.
formal here.
I'll second it. I mean, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
And I'll second it.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Good meeting, thank you.
Yeah.